What is going on, everybody? It's me, the Ultimate Fan. Welcome back. And today we're going to be ranking the entire first season of Thomas the Tank Engine. Yeah, I am going to be doing I think I want to rank all of most of the seasons of all the episodes. I want to rank the episodes for these seasons. I'm only gonna be doing the first 5 seasons because I'm not gonna do the whole series. Especially like I'm not very experienced with like the CGI series. So I'm only gonna be doing the first 5 seasons, and I might do season 6 and 7. I don't know. I'm still thinking of might be doing season 6 and 7, but I'm not sure. So yeah, because I'm only gonna be doing like the first 7 seasons for the most part because I don't have that much experience, like, past that, especially with like the hit era and beyond. So yeah, but I'm going to be showing you the tiers, because that might be really interesting for you guys. So we got here at the top, we got the top 5 episodes. I'm only gonna be putting here the top 5 episodes of the season. We got good, decent, okay, bad, and horrid. And I don't think there's gonna be any in the horrid tier, but I did it anyways. So yeah, let's get into the episodes. So yeah, let's get into it. Thomas and Gordon, the pilot episode of season 1. Honestly, since I'm not gonna go easy on this episode, it isn't the most interesting, but it did kickstart the whole show, so I'll put it in decent. Not the best episode, to be honest. I mean, but since it basically just introduces us to the dynamic between Thomas and Gordon, which became mainstays of the series throughout the rest of the show. So yeah, for the episode that started this entire wonderful series, I'm gonna be cherished. And I really like this episode. It's one of the most iconic ones. So yeah, I have to put it up here. Edward and Gordon, honestly, this introduces us to the dynamic between Edward and Gordon, which will be expanded off in later seasons. I say this episode is, I'm gonna put it in okay, to be honest. It's not the most interesting episode, but it is like, I mean, Gordon gets stuck on a hill is kind of getting repetitive, but that, is because of the later seasons. It's not really a fault of this one. Yeah, I do have to say, this episode is pretty good. The sad story of Henry, you all know this episode, it's world famous, because many people think Henry actually died in the tunnel. Yeah, Henry gets bricked up in the tunnel and he's left there forever. No, he gets let on the next episode. In the top 5 it goes because it's one of the most iconic ones, and it's also one of the more darker episodes. Like classic Thomas didn't, like, it could get dark. It isn't just happy, funny random situations. No, it is like there's like people saying how Thomas is more than a catch-all, and these episodes are the entire reason why it's more than a catch-all. I mean, an engine gets bricked up in a tunnel. Like, seriously, that's kind of gruesome if you think of it. And honestly, this episode teaches us like the moral that you don't always get away with your stuff. You're gonna be punished for your consequences. So yeah, and that's not a big moral that kid shows nowadays really teach, to be honest. So, yeah. Edward, Gordon, and Henry, this episode, I'm gonna put an because, honestly, I don't really have an opinion on this. It's kind of like the part 2, so that way they can get Henry out. It's kind of cool, but basically not that much happens in this episode. It's just kind of there. I know it kind of wraps up Henry's story, and you kind of see this episode so you can get the happy ending, but honestly, that's why I don't maybe think people skip this episode and only watch part 1, when it's really a 2-parter. Season 1 had a lot, like, 2-parters and 3-parters, shall I say, which is really cool. Thomas's Train. I know this episode is really disliked in the fandom. I know this. Everyone just shits on this episode, and I don't get it why. So I'm not... People, like, I think would put it, like, in bad or I'm gonna put it in decent, I guess. It's a fine story. I know it kind of goes overboard with Thomas not feeling the coaches, but I mean, I don't know why he did it because, like, if you guys have read the original Railway series story, Thomas, didn't even make it out of the station yard in the Railway series. Here he goes like a couple miles. And it's worse than the adventure begins because he goes there like maybe like 10 miles. Here he goes like maybe 3 to 6 miles. Yeah, this episode is okay. It's decent, I guess. Um, I don't hate it as other people do. I don't hate it. I don't hate it as other people say they do, but I told you, my opinions on this episode is kind of mixed, but honestly, I don't hate it as other people do, to be honest. Thomas and the Trunk. Now, this one's a classic. I really like this episode. It goes in good. It's the first good episode besides the sad story of Henry. Honestly, this episode is really good because it shows us Thomas's journey with the trucks, and I think it's really cool. I really like this episode, to be honest. It's good. Like, especially the trucks theme is one of my favorite soundtracks in the whole show. And yeah, it's not really an eventful episode, but it is a cool one, and I really love this one a lot. Thomas saves the day. I'm kind of mixed on this episode. I'll put it in okay. Probably more than Edward and Gordon because it's more interesting. This one's kind of introducing us to James. Even though he appeared in the previous episodes in the background, here is where he kind of gets properly introduced. Honestly, I don't really know what to say about this episode, especially now that we have The Adventure Begins, where, I think The Adventure Begins did a better take on the story. It's kind of in this episode, James runs Thomas goes to save him, but he doesn't chase after him like in The Adventure Begins. I think The Adventure Begins handled the story better, which is the reason why it's in here. James and the coaches, I'm kind of mixed on this one. We're getting into the James three-parter next. I think out of all the James three-parters arc, I think this one is the weakest. I'll put it in okay, cause, like, it's not great. I honestly don't think it's great. But it isn't bad either. It isn't a bad episode. I think it's more of a comedic episode. But these are kind of the episodes that say, like, yeah, Thomas and Friends is a boring show. Yeah, and I cannot blame it. Season 1 is very slow paced, which I can understand, like normies who watch like Star Wars and these anime and stuff are not gonna understand the appeal of Thomas that much because of episodes like these. Troublesome Trucks. Honestly, this is the better episode. I think it goes. I'm only gonna put it in good, to be honest, because it's kind of the sequel to Thomas and the Trucks. It's exciting. It's cool. It shows James's redemption arc. It's kind of a redemption story for James, but I really do like this one. It's probably my favorite out of the James three-parters. So, James and the Express, honestly, I don't know what to say about this episode. I'll put it in decent, I guess. Probably higher than these, because I think this episode has a really strong premise. To be honest, like, the idea of the loop line is nice. James is a funny character. And Gordon, just being embarrassed, it's kind of funny to see. But other than that, this episode doesn't really do anything interesting. Honestly, it kind of just ends James's arc and gives him a redemption, which I really like. Thomas and the Guard. This is another episode that's very hated in the fandom. I'll put it in okay. I'm not that harsh on these episodes. I know the fandom really just goes like, yeah, this is just things happening on Thomas's branch line, but this was the episode that introduced us to Thomas's branch line. And yes, and of course, this episode is only remembered for the "you're too fat, you need exercise" skedaddle. And I actually really like that. So yeah, Thomas goes fishing. I don't know if I should put this. I honestly don't know where to put this episode. I think it can go in my top 5 because I really do find this episode as one of the most unique ones from season 1. Out of all the episodes from season 1, I think this one is one of my favorites because it's such a ridiculous story and kind of just builds up Thomas's dislike for fish, which, gets expanded on in later seasons. So, yeah, and I think this episode, out of all the ones on Thomas's branch line, I think this one is the funniest. However, I might have to lower it down afterwards if I don't get to my top 5. Thomas, Terrence, and the Snow, this one sticks out to me because I did that remake 2 years ago, and it's one of the worst ones I've done. What was wrong with me 2 years ago? Honestly, as an episode alone, I think it's good. Not great, but not bad either. It's a really interesting story between Thomas and Terrence. Like, Terrence gets established, Thomas gets his comeuppance, which is also, like, the first proper crash in the series. Yeah, it took into episode 13. Yeah, now, and also from this point on, this is when the season actually gets good. Thomas and Birdie, oh man. Oh boy, oh boy. Top tier, man. Top 5. Because this episode is the most exhilarating episode of season 1. No doubt at all. It's energetic, it's fast-paced. It's also Thomas and Birdie's first race, which will later be expanded on in later seasons. This is one of the most fast-paced episodes of the show. Honestly, I could put this to like an anime lover or something, and I think they'll have a lot of fun with it because it's exciting, it's exhilarating, and I don't think it would be boring either because this episode is very fast-paced. Like, this is the first episode that's fast-paced. The other episodes are kind of like slower-paced, which is not a bad thing per se, but honestly, some fast-paced episodes every now and then is kind of nice from time to time. Tenders and turntables, I'll put it in decent. Honestly, it's just remembered for the scene where James just goes haywire on the turntable. Yeah, nothing really interesting happened in this episode. Yes, there's James just spinning on the turntable. And anyways, this episode doesn't really do anything interesting. It's just the big engines bitching. It kind of just tells a story. When you bitch, you don't get what you want, I guess. Trouble in the Shed. Yeah, this episode is the one that introduces us to Percy. And, honestly, I'm putting it in okay, I guess. Because, what here is good. It's a good episode for what it is, to introduce us to Percy, but other than that, nothing much. Anyways, yeah, that's kind of... Percy runs away, I have to say, I'll put it in good, to be honest. It's not good to make it into the top 5, but... You know what, actually? I'll swap places with Thomas Goes Fishing, because now I think I changed my mind. So yeah, it's gonna go in the top 5, and I'm moving Thomas Goes Fishing lower. Yeah, I actually think this episode is very interesting. It's really good. It has a lot of action-packed scenes, and it kind of, revolves Gordon and Percy's kind of brotherly friendship, and it would later be expanded on in later seasons. So yeah, I really like that. It's a very fun, nice episode, and honestly, Percy's a cool character. He's one of my favorite characters, so... Yeah, Cole, the first one of the Henry saga. Okay, I guess. It isn't great. It's kind of slow-paced, but, like, it's not bad either. It's not bad. Honestly, I don't have that much to say about it, just establishes Henry's special Cole. That's kind of... Oh, the Flying Kipper, you know what? Honestly, top tier. This is the best episode of season 1. No, hands down. It's the one that stands out the most since it mostly takes place at nighttime, which is like the only time we really see that many nighttime shots this season. The episode is not that. This episode right here is in my top 10 Thomas episodes Period. It's in my top 10 favorite episodes of the whole show. No joking. Maybe top 5 because it's that good. And that's why it shows why Henry is my favorite character. Whistles and sneezes, honestly, decent episode. Decent. Because I think this episode is one of the most unique ones. It's basically kind of a two-part. It kind of just feels like a two-part that could not be separated because it contains Gordon just blowing a safety valve and whistling like crazy, and then the second half is just Henry just teaching some young boys a lesson. But this episode's really funny. I really like this one, especially how Gordon embarrasses himself again. Toby and the Sow Gentleman. Honestly, good episode. Really like this one. It's amazing how, the entire that the show really allowed to fade away from the already established characters and focus on a completely different railway we've never seen before. And I told you, Toby is really well introduced here. Honestly, Toby was really done well in the classic era, and honestly, it's a really good how much they did to introduce Toby. They did a really good job to introduce Toby here. Thomas in Trouble. Now, this is kind of the episode that establishes, oh yeah, Toby's now gonna work on the main railway with all the other characters now. Okay, I guess. Honestly, I don't know what to say about this episode, because it's like, yeah, it kind of happens. Thomas gets in trouble with a policeman, and Toby has to come to, carry the workload on that part of the line. Yeah, it's kind of weird. Honestly, I told you, season 1 is definitely not my favorite season, to be honest. The later seasons get more interesting after this one. Dirty Objects, I might be biased to this episode, but second place. I know, shocking. It's second place, but fuck you, I guess, if you don't agree to me, because honestly, this episode is just amazing. Honestly, this was one of my favorites as a kid. That's why James is my favorite character. I mean, one of my favorites. Because this episode is just so unique. The runaway scene, the build up, the crash, Jesus, one of the most iconic episodes of the whole show. And honestly, this was one of my favorite episodes as a kid. I really liked this one as a kid because out of all, when I had those toy trains with me when I was younger, those, Thomas toys back then, this was the episode I used to remake the most. I would always, take my James and crash them into some trucks to, imitate this episode, because this was the one I remade the most as a kid. I love this episode dearly. Honestly, I think the Flying Kipper is cooler with the crash, but this one is one of my favorites, and it beats every single other episode. But these are my top 5 episodes from this season, to be honest. Off the Rails, another really good Gordon episode. Good. Really like this one. Because it's just really good. Honestly, again, seeing Gordon get humiliated is funny. But it also, it's just funny because he's just falling into a ditch and just gets fun on for the rest of the episode. Really nice. Really nice. Top notch. Down the mine of... Honestly, now that we have the 1983 pilot, it's kind of rough for me to rank this episode, because I used to like it, but now that we got the pilot, which I think the pilot has some strong ideas. The crash, I think, was done way better in the pilot. And, honestly, I think this episode is better than the pilot, since it's a more high-budgeted version. The pilot did some really good things as well, that better than the final episode, but it's still a really good episode for what it is. It's such a shame that we didn't get Paint Pots and Queens this season. We got it 3 seasons later, but I'll get to that in another in another one. Thomas's Christmas Party. This is the replacement to Paint Pawns and Queens. I'll put it in Ed, to be honest, because out of all the episodes in this season, this one feels very out of place compared to the... I know they wanted to have a Christmas episode to finish off the season with, but out of all, like, the Christmas episodes that finish off a season type trope they did for the first three, this one's the weakest. And I'll get to the other ones later, but this one is one of the weakest episodes of this season, because it just feels very weirded out and just doesn't really feel very canonically good. Like, this doesn't really seem very canonically good, to be honest, because honestly, this kind of feels like a part 2 to a part 1 we never got. Because there's like that whole flashback scene, you know, with Mrs. Kindly saving Thomas. Honestly, we shouldn't have gotten a part 1 to that, but honestly, I understand this episode is just kind of weird out. I wish we would have gotten Paint Pot to Queens instead. That would have been a way better finale to the season than this. But I'm not blaming. This episode's still good, but out of all the episodes this season is probably the weakest. Because it just feels very out of place. Anyways, that is my tier list. So now I'm just gonna go down and show you the entire tier list, I guess. And that's really it. That is the entirety of Season 1 ranked. What do you guys think of this tier list? Let me know in the comments. What do you guys think of it? And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video, and peace out, everybody.